The best of Money Matters. Right Business.
Welcome to The Right Business, where we dive deep into the stories of trailblazers who dare to disrupt the status quo, find the gap in the market to find the right business. Hello, I'm Hongbin, Jeong. Traditionally, building internet infrastructure has relied on costly and time-consuming fiber optic cables, limiting access in remote or underserved areas. However, advancements in laser communication are changing the game by offering faster, more efficient, and scalable connectivity solutions. Now, leading this revolution is Transcelestial, a company pioneering wireless laser technology to build connectivity gaps on Earth and beyond. So to share more about this groundbreaking mission and the future of laser-powered global connectivity, we're joined now by Rohit Chua, who is the CEO and co-founder of Transcelestial. Hi, Rohit. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me here. And that was a much better intro than what I do most of the time.
Well, thank you so much. Well, Rohit, I want to find out more about your company here and you especially, because your transition from a high-paying trading job in banking to founding a company is certainly intriguing. What made you decide to leave everything behind and, decide to create Transcelestial?
Yeah, I think that was too much money at that point. And I was like, I need to earn less.
Really?
I was working with some of the most smartest people, and I think that's what the banking industry is generally known for. And it was a good job looking at foreign exchange markets and stuff. But as a background, I'm a sci-fi nerd growing up.
Okay.
And I wish to live in a future where we look up at the moon and we see ships going regularly and humanity amongst the stars. And sadly, that's not the future we live in or present we live in today. And so I think I've always believed that few groups of individuals can actually make all the difference. It's been true for a long time. So this company kind of came about as for humanity to kind of go out into the stars. You need kind of to do three things.
Okay.
You need to figure out how to go from point A to B, which is rockets. And Elon and a bunch of boys are doing a great job at that. The second is energy. How do you create, distribute, and store high-density energy in space to power civilizations? And number three is communications.
Right.
So I didn't see any company really building the technology that's needed to actually expand us amongst the stars, which is lasers and light-based communication. And B, actually... not building the technology and not scaling it up. So thought there was a good opportunity to do it.
I see. Well, I'm not really a sci-fi nerd, so I'm not sure about all this, laser communication. So tell us more about this and tell us more about how this technology works in Transcelestial and how it achieves, fiber-like speeds without the physical cables.
Yeah, that's a good question. So funnily enough, if you ask an average person on the street, how do you get your amazing Wi-Fi at home or on your phone, they'll be like, oh, it's some cool satellites beaming it down to our phones.
Right.
That's totally wrong. So that's maybe less than 0.5% of the world's internet is that way.
Okay.
More than 99% actually is these massive fat cables which sit at the bottom of the ocean.
Oh.
And they move data between continents.
Okay.
They're very exclusive ships which do that. And then these cables, they come up, let's say, in Singapore, or they come up in in a coastal area. And from there, they spread out like a branching network to cities and towns and schools and hospitals and everywhere. So it's a giant network of networks.
Okay.
And the thing that powers all of it at the core is a fiber optic cable. And inside a fiber optic cable is actually a laser or a light. So you actually convert zeros and ones to a light, and then you bump it and beam it through a fiber optic cable under the oceans to get your YouTube videos in Singapore.
I see.
So we said that that's interesting because when you look up at night sky, you see starlight coming from billions of light years away.
Right.
So for a sufficiently advanced technical civilization, they should be able to use light to traverse data across vast stellar distances. And so that's why all we have done is taken the laser from inside a fiber core and we run it wirelessly.
Oh, wow.
Right,
That's
as simple as that.
That's very interesting. The traditional reliance on undersea cables is not only costly, apparently, but also prone to disruptions. So how does your laser-based solution offer a more resilient alternative?
Yeah, good question. I'm probably going to give more exaggerated examples here of the work we have done. So One good example is that there's a couple of times where post-hurricane or post-earthquake, a city's kind of fiber optic networks, which is buried under the ground, is broken. And so communities lose internet and first aid becomes very difficult and first responders become difficult. So a couple of times in Taiwan, in Philippines, in the Caribbean after the hurricanes, we have gone in with our technology. And wherever, let's say a few kilometers down, there's still 5G antennas intact. From there, we have used lasers to beam internet back down to affected areas, right? Most recent example is the LA fires everyone saw. And that's actually not only wiped out homes, but also all of telecommunication infrastructure.
Right.
So we are now working with 3 of the top telecoms there in the US to actually restore and bring connectivity back to those areas. But they're using it doing lasers.
I see. That's very interesting. So would you say that, whatever solution Transcelestial has proves to have faster internet connection rather than the traditional methods? And how much faster would that be?
Yeah, so often there's kind of 2 elements to that. So one is we are sitting in 2025 and sadly internet still sucks in most places. And the reason is because it's extremely cost prohibitive to put fiber optic cables. Singapore did that 15 years ago. It's one of the only cities to do it. And we are still kind of depreciating that asset on our books. So this allows us to bring communities to the level of Singapore's internet at a fraction of the cost and time. So a great example I can give is Penang, which is quite close hereby. 2 years ago, we went in with the help of the Ministry of Communications there. And we put 2 lasers going into the island. And today it powers broadband for over 30 villages in Penang, Sarawak, and Sabah. Yeah, but that happened on a Saturday afternoon. Our guys went in the morning, and by afternoon we were done. Versus it would have taken them months and tens of millions of dollars to actually get that infrastructure in place.
That's amazing. And it seems like you've introduced the Centauri device, which has been designed for easy deployment even in remote areas. Could you share more about this and how does it actually work?
Yeah, so Penang was a great example of villages which are off kind of far away from big cities and stuff. And there are examples like in Philippines where we have done Visayas and Mindanao and a few of these outlying areas where there's a lot of jungle and there's a lot of tough land to put traditional infrastructure in. So this is where using a wireless technology, you can actually just beam from point A to point B, literally Avenger-style laser signals. The other side, you just get magical 4G internet connections and stuff. But I think the challenge was on using our current Centauri systems and the products we had, we could only do very short distances, 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers within a city. So since day one, and hence as the name suggests, we were starting to think about how do we effectively replace the undersea cables? How do we go from Singapore to New York? How do we go from New York to the moon? Right. And so that's where we started secretly testing our space program stuff. And effectively what we are doing is instead of these cables going under the sea, we have now developed technology which can beam a laser up into orbit and then route it around the planet to drop it directly into a city or a town. So tomorrow, if the undersea cables for Singapore get cut, we can power the internet for entire Singapore from orbit.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
And we just announced that vertical after stealthily working on it for the last 2 years. We just announced this 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like Singapore is also set to launch its first inter-satellite laser communication mission in 2026 with Transcelestial playing a critical role.
Yeah.
So because of this, you've decided to found Transcelestial, which is now helping to position Singapore as a key player in the space-based connectivity. Can you walk us through how this mission came about and what it signifies for the future of laser communications?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have something called EDB's Office of Space Technology here, which is not exactly like a full-blown agency like NASA, but they're full of science and space nerds who want to do more and build up that vertical within Singapore. Back when I was a student, we worked on Singapore's first indigenously built satellite, which was a good project, but it ran for too long, almost 10 years to get a tiny satellite up.
Right.
Now you put satellites up in a month, like some of the more advanced countries. So we were looking at what can we do as Singapore. Launch is difficult because you don't have giant areas where we can launch giant rockets from. So satellites and satellite technology makes a lot of sense. In space, you can do 2 things. You can look at planet Earth, or you can bounce signals around the planet for comms. And so one of those markets is $1 trillion industry, which is the comms market. So that's why we worked with EDB and we were now with ST Engineering to be like, look, let's demonstrate this capability that we have been building to show that we can actually do what I just said, which is like bounce ultra high bandwidth communications, like things that can power the internet for an entire nation across the world. And this has never been done before. Now, militarily, there are 4 other countries who have this technology. You have US, you have China, you have Japan, and you have Germany. And now, for the first time, Singapore has become one of the world's 5 countries to have this capability. And this is our first thing in space.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, given your laser communication system has already proven its capabilities in high traffic environments like, Coachella or Stagecoach, how does this real world success translate to its reliability in space then?
Great question. So I think the analogy I usually give to a lot of people is that people have been able to make electric cars since like 1910. Since the days of Edison and stuff. It's very easy to buy a motor and a battery and you can convert a normal car to electric. Right. But it takes intense amount of operational and engineering back experience to build these cars at like millions of scale. Similar, and that's what Tesla does and other BYD does and stuff. So similarly, what our team has been very good at for the last 7.5 to 8 years is we've deployed over 150 kilometers of these lasers and we channel around 2 terabits of traffic globally with this. So that's a lot of telecommunication experience. And we pipe all of that into our next frontier, which is space. It's an infinitely harder environment and a very harsh environment to operate in compared to the confines of Earth. So most of our team is space background. So that helps, obviously. Ex-NASA, ex-ESA people. And so that helps, plus our experience and expertise helps. So like we landed working with Singapore government, just announced that we also are working with Catalonia government or Spanish government to demonstrate world's first 6G from space. So direct to your handset, you can get mobile signals wherever you are in the world.
Wow.
And it uses a laser beamed up from Barcelona to power the antenna in the space, which then beams the 6G signal down. So these are just new capabilities we are coming up. We are building the world's first orbital data center by the end of December, which we are launching, which will be the first fully cloud connectivity in space that we can run.
That's amazing.
So there's lots of these kind of things that are up and coming.
I mean, looks like you have a lot of things planned for Transcelestial. So what's the ultimate goal for a Transcelestial then?
Well, we stopped talking about how internet sucks when we were in Phuket. I don't know, like that's one big one. I think both me and my co-founder and a lot of my team members, we grew up in parts of the world where internet sucked. And coming to Singapore was a 0 to 1 aha moment for us in terms of education and financial systems and stuff. And so I definitely want that platform for every kid in the world from day one that they should have. But also like putting my sci-fi nerd hat back on, I want us to be exploring the solar system and beyond with autonomous robots, with humans, with space settlements, with mining. And I think this is one of the 3 unlocking factors. And I want Transcelestial to be a key aspect of it. Maybe the biggest telco in space ever.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Rohit, for joining me today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was great chatting.
Thank you. That was Rohit Jha, who is the CEO and co-founder of Transcelestial. This has been The Right Business with me, Hongbin Jeong.